through the agenda, if that's okay.
Guess I'll go ahead and start it. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody out. Jamie?
Yes, so I just want to let everybody know, we received some feedback from stakeholders, either attending virtually or tuning into the live stream. Thank you, Charlie, for last week. But I am going to ask everybody that if you are speaking, please speak into the mic. That way the audience can hear. We appreciate it. Thank you.
All righty, and first thing on the agenda, thank you. First thing on the agenda is to approve last month's minutes. So there's no discussion, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Minutes are approved. All right, our speaker today is Nina, who we all know. Nina, why don't you come on up?
Wherever you're more comfortable.
Okay.
You are totally fine either place. Ed, did we get that PDF?
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
I think I know everyone, but I'm Nina Flegel. I'm the Executive Director of Main Street Chestertown. For anyone who does not know, Main Street Chestertown is a 501c3 based in Chestertown, and we are part of a national network of Main Streets. So there's 33 in Maryland. We are the only accredited Main Street in Kent County. Rock Hall does have a Main Street program. They're an affiliate. They're just not large enough to be a freestanding accredited member. And then Main Street America, which is based out of Chicago, is under the umbrella of the National Historic Trust. So that's sort of our grandparent company. Main Street in Chestertown was actually originally started in 2008. It kind of got up and going. It was commissioned to be started by the Chestertown Mayor and Council. When the bad R word hit in 2008, things just sort of went dormant for a little while. They kept up the 501c3 status and things like that, but it just wasn't very active. When my predecessor, Kay McIntosh, came on as the Chestertown Economic Development Coordinator, she was tasked with not only resurrecting the Main Street program, but also implementing the Arts and Entertainment District in Chestertown as well. The good news is she did so well that both of those things needed to sort of break away from the town and be freestanding. They needed their own boards, they needed their own staff, they needed to be able to grow. So as you may know, A&E went over to be under the Kent Cultural Alliance. Hester Sash actually runs that program. They have their own advisory council. And then Main Street, we're still a 501c3, but we're sort of freestanding at this point. But we still have close ties to the town. My office is in Town Hall. I always compare it to we are the child that moved out to go to college, but come home to do our laundry and ask for money. We are unique, especially among Maryland Main Streets, in that we do not actually have a parent umbrella company. Most of the other Maryland Main Streets are under economic development alliances, CDCs, the town, things like that. We're one of the few. There are more that are kind of headed our way. One of the reasons that we broke off is just because it was awkward having two different sets of initiatives, and for me, two bosses, answering both to the town council and to my own board. So that made it a little more cleaner. And then also because since the Chestertown town staff is small, they needed help and assistance fulfilling some of their sort of roles, staff roles. And we were happy to pick that up, but we figured out that if we were a freestanding 501c3, we could access a lot more funding and a lot more support that the town was not eligible for on behalf of the town. So one of the programs that we've had from the very beginning that has grown exponentially is our facade improvement grant program. This is not something new. Other towns in Maryland and in the United States do it. We have one of the longest running ones. We've been doing it at least once, sometimes twice a year since 2017 with pretty pictures. Rose, if you don't mind going to the next slide. Because this is one of the more visible economic development and tourism initiatives for us, Jamie thought it might be a good idea to just kind of give you an update on the program. So the way it works is a lot of our funding for this program comes from Department of Housing and Community Development on the state level. They have set aside funds specifically for facade improvement just for main streets that we are eligible for. So this is kind of a new development. There's always been state revitalization funds that we have tapped for this program. They have recognized that the facade improvement programs have grown so much that they've now set aside on the state level separate funding just for facade improvement. The state revitalization is still there, we can still access it, but they've sort of changed that fund to be, to have a broader use, so that now we can access it to do things like, we just put in a commercial LEED certified kitchen for a waterman's wife downtown. It can be used for, the state revitalization can be used for sprinkler systems, HVAC, the really sexy stuff on a building that often the tenant certainly shouldn't be paying for, but the business owner can't necessarily afford to bring to the standard that something like a restaurant might need. So then these facade improvement funds can be used for the outside of a building, or can be used for some other exterior projects. So each municipality or each main street is allowed to set their own rules and regulations around it. And we'll make sure to email all this to you as well. The way we do it is we do have a 6-member panel that's made up of local architects, engineers, designers, things of that nature. So we have people like John Hutchinson, Joe Phillips, Justin Taylor on ours. We have a few contractors, things like that. So people who know what they're talking about. So certainly once a year in March, this year we got extra funding. We were able to also open an application round this September. It's going on right now. Commercial property owners or commercial property tenants anywhere within the historic district are eligible to apply. They are eligible to apply because our entire historic district is in a sustainable opportunity zone. So that's sort of the state requirement, is that it be in a sustainable zone. They are able to apply for up to $20,000. This is, it is a 1-for-1 match. So we do require a 50% match from the business owner unless it's under about $2,000. So for example, if they're just utilizing it to do a sign for their business, we're not gonna have them match. But for some of these larger projects that we'll show you pictures of, usually the 20,000 is no stretch because it's, you know, $1 million project. So, yeah.
I just noticed a confused look on Nancy's face. A sustainable community. Is that what you were looking? Okay. I'm sorry, your face, but, so.
I regularly
That's
confuse
okay,
Nancy.
that's
It's
okay.
fine.
I was figuring out her math.
Okay, so as long as it's in a sustainable community, am I correct that that's how, okay.
And it
I
must
wanna
be
make sure that we're-
zoned commercial, and at least locally, we also deem that even if it's just a commercial property, that the use has to also be commercial. So we are not looking to renovate apartment buildings. Yes, they are technically commercial properties, but we're really looking at businesses, retail, restaurants, kind of public use buildings, if you will. So, like I said, they're, you know, up to $20,000, and we can, you just scroll as you will, but this is some of the work that is covered. So what we're looking at, especially because this is, ultimately has to go before, not just us, also has to go before the Chestertown Historic District Commission. It also has to go before Maryland Historical Trust. They're the ones that are kind of controlling this whole thing. And the reason they control us and not necessarily other Main Street facade programs is because, and not a lot of people know this, the entire town of Chestertown is a National Historic Landmark. We are one of 66 National Historic Landmarks as towns in the United States. It's few and far between, which is awesome, and it means that we can do a lot of things, but it also means the entire town is under some pretty strict regulations from NHT and MHD. So they give their final sign-off. Honestly, their rules are not as strict as our local HDC, so usually it's not a problem. And what we're looking for is not routine maintenance. We're looking for anything that's enhancing or improving the building, anything that's making it more sustainable, or anything that's bringing it back to its historical roots. So again, because we're kind of working with HDC and getting these applicants prepped for HDC, we're doing anything we can to make suggestions on types of materials, on aesthetics. We give preference to projects that are working with professional architects or designers because we know they're picking the right things and they're doing it the right way. So it can be, but it can be as simple as I need a sign for my new business as well. So the application process I sort of alluded to, they apply to us. We go through a pretty rigorous process to review it. We, at the same time, they're also getting approval by HDC. We send it to Maryland Historical Trust, they sign off, and then the applicant is given a letter of approval with how much they were approved for. They have to start the project within 6 months and finish it within a year of receiving that letter. So we're looking for projects that are ready to go. Because we hold the application periods relatively regularly, a lot of the times I will sort of mention to people, hey, maybe you should wait for September, and apply then, sort of thing. So we're looking for shovel-ready projects and for the fact that the owners already have some funding in place. So these are just some of our outcomes in the last 5 or 6 years. So about 25 projects to date. We'll probably have about 6 more on the docket in about a month. So we've invested ourselves close to $300,000. That's now going to be at the end of the fall close to $4 million, just sort of investment in the downtown just for facade improvement. And then, like I said, we always have an application period in March. That's with DHCD funding. We were able to open another one this fall because we were lucky to receive some ARPA funding to go towards this type of thing. And then, if you keep scrolling, Rose, if you don't mind, just some of the projects, that we have taken a part in. Some of the bigger ones are things like Watershed. Some of the others are, keep scrolling. No, you're fine. You're fine. A recent one is Walnut and Wool. So this was a combination project of both our facade and we just did a pedestrian lighting project. So we received money to put in both facade lighting and display window lighting for all of our local businesses at no cost to them. This also meant that we were able to develop lighting guidelines for the entire historic district, which has since been adopted by HDC. So now there's a handbook for going forward so that we don't have bright blue LED light and we don't have up lights into people's apartment building windows. And so I think they were actually grateful that we went through this very painful process to come up with these guidelines and these handbooks, which are now leading to increased lighting. Since, as you know, before this, if you went downtown in Chestertown at night, it was a little bit of a black hole. So we're trying to do as much as we can with facade lighting and landscape lighting to alleviate that. Here's another one. A lot of people knew it as the Newland Building. So this one actually has received 2 facade grants, one under Peter Newland when he was working on it, and then a more recent one under Julie Santaboni when she was finishing the project on Park Row as well. That was a large reconstruction project. So the reason I'm showing this one again is because there are a few projects that do not necessarily have a private owner, but that we as Main Street have felt that these funds would benefit the most people. So one thing, I'm sure if you've driven through Chestertown, you see the mess that is Park Row right now. We are bricking the sidewalk and rebuilding the curb along Park Row. That also includes increased drainage, et cetera, et cetera. So, because the goal is to sort of delineate the historic district using some of these brick sidewalks. It actually helps environmentally because they are more pervious. They allow for more water runoff, and they just look nicer. And because they are not bonded, these are all put in what we call gator dust. They're much more flexible. And so as trees grow or as we need to move them around, they're just building blocks, and we don't have cracked cement, we don't have tripping hazards as much, things like that. And then, as I mentioned, this is a recent photo of a project we did for a row of businesses, Be Crafty, Coco's Pet Center, that whole building, where we added display lighting and we added exterior lighting so that it's much more bright. Now people are actually sitting out there at night, and it just helps spread light on the sidewalks for safety and security as well. So that's sort of the spiel about facade improvement. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm also happy to answer any questions about sort of Chestertown in general and any economic development.
I have a question. And actually, it'd be interesting to look at that Be Crafty photo, Rose. I don't know if you could go back to that one.
It's not a great photo, but.
No, it illustrates what I'm about to ask. Where does the facade stop and infrastructure start? Because, that photo, I think, illustrates
No,
Be
Very
Crafty.
last one.
Keep going.
Keep
Yeah.
there you
going.
go.
There-
Chestertown, I think, is in need of some curb and sidewalk repair in certain areas, and I just don't know, I know it's applied for grants in the past and failed, and I just didn't know, obviously, the project that you did on Park, or, is that Park Row?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You did that as an independent project not associated with a single owner, but I don't know if there's, where it stops, for
So,
facade.
at least in Chestertown, general rule of thumb, a lot of the commercial properties, about 5 feet off of is where where the private property owner's territory stops and the town starts. Now, that's fluid. For something like a brickwork repair, the rule in Chestertown has been for a long time that it's actually a 50-50 cost. So the town, for any repairs, the town will pay 50 and will arrange for the work, and the property owner will pay for 50. So what we actually did on Park Row was the town paid their 50%, and then all of those property owners applied to us for a facade grant, and we paid their 50%, essentially. Because, we're not just gonna come onto somebody's property and do something for them, but we knew we had identified this, and so sort of found our advocates along Park Row, and they were all for it, and it spurred most of them to independently brick the section from the sidewalk to their front door so that it was all cohesive as well. And actually Park Row will go all the way up across, in front of the new KCA building, kind of past to the corner. But when we're looking at facades and things like that, they have to be in very public right-of-ways, and they have to have a main entrance for a business. So, a perfect example is as you're coming around the turn on Cross Street, like where Stepney Station is and all, you can see quite a few of the backs of businesses, sides of businesses, things like that. So because we consider, even though that's not the front of the building, because it's so visible, we're gonna look at, projects on those, things like that. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wonder, how big is the budget for the facade grant program? I mean, how many do you do per year?
So I apply, to the state every cycle. For the most part, each time we do an application round, we have about a budget of 50,000. So that means there's at least 100,000 worth of investment going on, if not more.
And do you have more grants than you have money?
Oh, all the time. And it was so funny, when we first started, we're like begging people to apply. We had pretty lax rules because we just wanted anybody, to like start using this. And now, we've added, 2 rounds of applications a year and would want to do more if we had more money, because there's the good news is there's a lot of projects, and this sort of had a keeping up with the Joneses effect.
Yeah.
And so we do get a few like, hey, my 2 neighbors just did now they look pretty rowdy, I better, so I'm okay with that peer pressure, honestly.
yeah.
So. Paula, did you?
2 questions,
Yeah.
Nina. I'm delighted to see that you put that time and effort into doing the lighting study and made progress on that. The county is currently going through, as you probably know, land use ordinance revisions, and one of the issues there is lighting. Have you talked to Bill Mackey about comparing your the lighting rules that have been adopted for the town with the lighting rules that are now being proposed for the county?
I have not, I'll be honest.
I would suggest that you do, because I think there are several areas where there are disparities between the two that may not make sense in the long run. And if the town has adopted particularly relative to retail businesses, lighting allowances that are more favorable from the business's standpoint. I think it would be opportune to make that known to the county planning group,
Sure.
because it's right in the process right now.
No, and there's a couple of, I can think of a couple like shopping areas that are adjacent to the town, but they're still in the county.
Yeah.
Where that might be relevant. So
Right.
where the old Austin Carpets used to be, I'm thinking.
Yes,
And
yes.
then the one out, used to be a Chains Auto Repair now, and the tattoo shop.
Correct.
That's another place, so yeah, it might be.
Right.
Well, and the nice part is the lighting design studio that we had work on the Chestertown guidelines is actually the one that did all of the guidelines for the college. So again, just that cohesiveness of, going through that.
Consistency
Exactly.
is important.
Yeah.
And I don't, my second point is, and I don't mean to put you on the hot seat, but a number of years ago, several years ago, there was a kerfluffle about board members being the beneficiary of awards that ended up disqualifying other applicants because there was no more money.
Yeah.
And the state opined on this and said, first of all, that wasn't supposed to be allowed. Have you adopted new rules that provide for that arm's length?
So more importantly, the state did.
I'm sorry.
The state did. The
Yes.
DHCD, and actually it does not disqualify them. They obviously can't be a part of any rulings, decisions, votes, discussions. But quite a few of the smaller municipalities pushed back a little bit to say, and so Main Street Chestertown doesn't do it for any current board members, but the original ruling was no former board members and no even former board members that owned properties were eligible. Well, in a town this size, that pretty much rules out the entire town. So, DHCD actually went back and put some stopgaps in place for that kind of thing, and they're now written into the grant agreements
Okay.
with us, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I heard that you're getting a big grant to do an evaluation of.
Yeah.
That you might want to share that.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. So we, for years, we being Main Street Chestertown for years, have said, we don't want to throw, especially economic development wise, we don't want to throw spaghetti at the wall, right? We're happy to do these smaller projects. They're necessary, they're needed. I'll brick sidewalks all year long, but we got some bigger priorities that we want to address as well. And if you look at the town of Chestertown comprehensive plan, that is in the process of getting updated again, for the most part, their economic development and their tourism stops with the sentence of, we should enhance it and make it better, period. Okay? And so we have wanted to do, especially a downtown master plan that takes that sentence from the comprehensive plan and fleshes it out. The town now has recognized that that's necessary. I think a lot of that was because they just recently went through their strategic agenda planning for the next 3 years, and they realized that, oh wait, having a plan would be helpful on multiple levels. And so we're generously have funded phase 1, which is hiring a consultant to help us develop this master plan. The RFQ actually just went public yesterday. And so the hope is that this downtown master plan will, not just for us, but for all of the local partners who are relevant, the town, Ken Forward, Shore Rivers, Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, you name it, we'll take that, we'll have charrettes with the public, whatever it takes to put together sort of this priority list of projects. We'll also identify funding for these projects. We'll identify the organization where it makes the most sense to spearhead these projects for, we'll say, the next 10 to 15 years. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is kind of taking all those projects, actually figuring out what they cost, what it's going to take, and then phase 3 would be the implementation of those projects. So we hope to have the, I'll call it the 80% plan by this time next year, so we can at least start lining up grant funding and other funding for these projects. But this will really dictate what these larger projects involve. A lot of it is economic development, it's land use, it's identifying where we can put housing in some of these commercial buildings. It is anything from stormwater management. Water Street is sinking. It is burying the wires, at least downtown. And while we're burying the wires, can we replace the 1800s clay pipes and put in electric so that if we ever want to put in street lighting and fiber and 14 other things, it can even be rethinking our parking downtown. If High Street is wide enough in some places, if we go diagonal instead of parallel, does that give us that many more spaces? It'll help it will in no way supersede planning and zoning, but it will hopefully enhance the planning and zoning ordinances with more direction and give concrete projects for our partners and us to go after. Our hope is that anything we do would have anywhere from a 15 to 50-year longevity. So we're not looking to slap some paint on something. We're looking at these larger projects.
That's great.
Rebuilding the waterfront, and anything, we consider the waterfront anything from, the foot of High Street all the way over to Scotts Point's condos. What does that look like? Because we are the local representative for National Historic Trust, we're playing a pretty large role in the Armory discussion. I need an Advil just thinking about it, but,
Gummy
so
bear.
if that project comes to fruition, whatever that project is, what does that look like? How does that tie in with the Chester River Trail that the town is trying to do throughout that whole, I could go on and on, but
Yeah, sounds exciting.
the hope is to have a plan.
Is the plan entirely focused on Chestertown-related development?
Yes, but I will say that all the project will stem in Chestertown. There might be some that are contiguous or spill out into other areas just because of the nature of the project. A perfect example is Rails to Trails. But, first and foremost, it's going to start in the heart of Chestertown.
Nina, Rock Hall has one of these too, don't they?
They have an affiliate.
That's why I was going to ask, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Since they're not.
So Rock Hall will never have a full-fledged Main Street, just because of the size of Rock Hall. It's based on population, and that's something that National Historic Trust dictates. So Lori Walters, bless her heart, does amazing things, and they are much more, they don't have a staff. They are all volunteer-based, and for the most part are made up by business owners. Ours is different in that our board is, we always make sure we have some business owner representation, but we're also pulling in from a variety of different sectors to make sure we're as diversified as possible. So they have what they call an affiliate. We are not just a Main Street, a full Main Street, we're an accredited Main Street. We hit the funding level and the budget level and went through the training, slightly painful training, to get to the point where we are sort of the top of the top, so that we can access a lot more money at the state and federal level. And we are legally allowed to do a lot bigger projects than a lot of Main Streets can do. We can do true economic development if we needed to.
And what's the other funding pool you were talking about earlier, the restoration funds?
Oh, so state revitalization.
Yeah, so how
That's-
does that differ from the facade improvement?
Yeah, so state revitalization it's through the state of Maryland, and it's much broader in terms of its usage. So we sort of try to tap, on the state level, we tap sort of 4 to 5 resources, state revitalization for what I call the bricks and mortar projects, obviously facade funding. They do have technical assistant grants that we tap, and those, a lot of times we'll use those for things like business consulting for our businesses, so they can sign up to have a business consultant, resources, stuff like that. And then they do have operating grants that we can use for staff salaries, things like that. We're also, we can branch out and also tap things at DNR, Department of the Environment, Department of Commerce. There's a few different varied, and then we also hit up foundations. We have pretty successful individual donation program. We have corporate sponsorships. So, because in addition to the economic development stuff, we're also doing tourism, we're doing events, we're doing We head up the clean and green and sustainable stuff for Chestertown, so, you know, getting the 300 trees we're about to plant, and so there's a variety of, and we also just serve a lot of beer. You know, so that raises a lot more money than you think, so,
Sure. Cool.
yeah. Any other questions?
else? It's comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Of course, I'm always happy to
Phone you?
talk at any time.
Great, thank you. All right. Now we're going to go into some staff reports. Whoever wants to go.
Katie first?
Good afternoon. All right, I'm just gonna pull up a couple things on the webpage to go over. The first thing we wanted to share with you guys is some statistics regarding our Commerce Zone tax credit as well as the Enterprise Zone tax credits. So currently with the Commerce Zone property tax credit, we have 8 properties that are utilizing that. With our Enterprise Zone property tax, we have 17 properties total utilizing that tax credit. 12 of those properties in the Chestertown Enterprise Zone, and 5 of those in Rock Hall. And then also, 9 businesses are using the Enterprise Zone income tax credit. So that's information that we also, any business that's looking for information on this can be found on our incentives page and tax credits. So here, this first one is the Commerce Zone tax credit, and it'll walk you through what it is and then all of the associated documents for it as well. And then same thing with our Enterprise Zone tax credits. We have that next on the list here. And when you click read more, it explains what an Enterprise Zone is, who oversees the program, steps to begin. And then underneath the resources here, we have the information from Maryland Department of Commerce, and then each of the associated documents for our 3 enterprise zones. So there was that. The next thing that we wanted to share with you guys, one of our initiatives that we work with and on is the hot desks, and I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with it. There is a rack card that we just designed and had printed, and we're partnering with the other 4 locations to kind of distribute those throughout communities for people who may be interested. I'll go to the website and show you guys. For those of you not familiar with hot desks, it's a network of 4 business incubators or co-working spaces. There's one here in Chestertown, Cambridge, Denton, and Salisbury. And anybody who has access or membership to any of those locations can use any of the 4. So on the Hot Desk website, there's a directory here, co-working directory. Sorry, it's running a little slow. And it shows each location. And then from here, you can get to each location site. So this one is Cambridge. I'll go to ours, though. Sorry, this is slow. So this is what we have on our site. We have all of our key features listed. We have our membership plans that we can either get an individual membership or business membership. We also have dedicated office space when available. Users can download a printable version of this, which is just a PDF of the membership levels. And also users could, if you're interested in signing up, you can actually sign up online for this. It takes you to a form where you enter your information, and then whether you're a remote employee, entrepreneur, what type of membership level you're working or looking for, and then that's submitted to us, and our department handles setting up those memberships. So,
How popular is the hot desk?
Right now, we have 13 members, and we've had anywhere from 8 to 20.
What's the
So it just kind of
capacity?
goes up and down. I would say you're probably getting at capacity at 20, but not everybody's there every day, so it usually kind of works out. But right now, I think it's 14.
Okay.
All of the offices are occupied.
All of the
right now.
offices are currently occupied, yeah.
And then the next thing we wanted to share with you guys is another initiative that we've been working on with Upper Shore Regional Council, which is the Business Mentor Program. And this is also, this is between Kent County, Cecil County, and Queen Anne's County. So, let me pull this up. So they have it on their site as well. And basically, what it is it's offering business mentoring services at no cost to anyone who wants to start a small business in either Kent, Queen Anne's, or Cecil County. So startups, entrepreneurs, and existing businesses wanting to either grow or improve a component of their business, whether it be marketing or cash flow, or even just developing a business plan, can, reach out and basically sign up for a mentor to work on those different initiatives. So right now, we have our webpage live. It's kind of a work in progress. Queen Anne's County and Cecil County, and as you can see, it's coming soon. So we have it on our website, and also Upper Shore has it linked out from here. But on our page, and again, work in progress, kind of describes the program. We're in the process of working with our mentors to put up membership bios. And we have created a form where people can actually request a mentor right online. So if they click this button, it takes them to this form where they'll enter their contact information and then the type of assistance that they're looking for. So whether it's preparing financial projections or marketing or general business support, they'll put that information in there for us. Again, our department will get that request, and we'll go back to our team of mentors, and we'll determine which mentor is most appropriate to handle that person, be it industry related or just the focus that they're looking to do. And again, everything, or all the services here are free and confidential. Yeah,
So how does the county connect with the Upper Shore? Like, if we provide the mentors, what does the Upper Shore Regional Council do?
So, yeah, at this time, they're providing funding for us.
Okay.
And it's, they got funding through the Rural Maryland Economic Development Fund to help get this going. And the difference between what traditionally you hear as SCORE is that these mentors are local to Kent, Queen Anne's, and Cecil County.
Yeah.
There used to be an Upper Shore SCORE chapter. The mentors basically quit SCORE because they had some mandates that the mentors weren't comfortable with as far as how many hours they had to volunteer a week. They had to do all meetings via Zoom at the time. I understand they've kind of relaxed that some. And then the third one was they had to serve clients throughout the state of Maryland. And they really wanted to serve clients in their community. So this is more homegrown mentors. So that's the difference between the two. And I will say that Queen Anne's, Kent, and Cecil, Kent and Queen Anne's use the mentors more so. Cecil uses, they have a business librarian that kind of they start entrepreneurs with. So their website might look a little different than ours once they finally get it built out, but it's a place to start. Currently, there's about 12 to 14 mentors, so we are looking for more mentors. Katie's going to work on a form for people who want to be a mentor to sign up, and we're going to talk to Zane about how we would, what information do we need if somebody wants to. I've had a couple of retired executives from the county call and say, how can I get back? I'm retired now, and I want to help. So then what information does Zane and his group need to start getting that person acclimated with how the programs work?
The 12 or 14 is just Kent County?
Say that one
12
more.
or 14 is just Kent County?
All three,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And they're pretty, like, they'll serve either place, and it depends on what the person needs. You know, we got one gentleman who is from the agricultural community, we've got a banker, we've got a couple lawyers, so it depends on what they need as to who we connect them with. And a lot of times, they'll pull somebody else in with them, because let's say they finish the business plan, now they need to work on marketing. So then they'll pull in somebody who has that expertise. So it just depends on what stage they're at. But we have a great group of volunteers who are willing to help, yeah. And we have other people coming forward, so it's a really great program.
And we're always looking for more mentors, so if
And
you or
always.
someone you know are interested,
How
let
do you
us know.
publicize it? It seems like it's kind of a secret.
Well, we're getting ready, so we just, just the one website is up right now, the one for Kent County. So now that Maureen is on board, she's kind of taken ownership of it and making sure it moves forward. Before, it was like we were trying to juggle it with everything else. And you're right, we weren't getting very far. So now Maureen is kind of driving that process, so.
And we'll be
Yep.
pushing it out on social media channels
Yep.
and things like that and sharing now that we can actually start to get it rolling. We were kind of at a standstill as they were figuring out some of the insurance liability stuff too. So now that that's moving forward, we can start rolling it out. And that's all I have for today. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? Cool, thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm going to start with, so I want to talk about the brainstorming session about the Upper Shore Regional Council Ag Grant Program. So just want to thank you guys for that. That was good information. Thank you to Aaron for the notes. Paula, you emailed some stuff prior, as well as everyone's input during the meeting. The next Upper Shore Regional Council Office of Economic Developers should be meeting in October. I don't have the date on that yet. And the commission discussion and ideas will be presented. And ultimately, it is the Upper Shore Regional Council that decides whether we change the program or whether we keep the program the way it is. But we will definitely talk about it during that time. One thing I do want to say, it was brought up about the field to farm dinner that was held in Queen Anne's County. And I do want to just share because I feel we've done a really good job with our funding to get out to the businesses. That Queen Anne's County field to farm dinner was funded by leftover funding from the Upper Shore Regional Council from 2020. So that money was really allocated for a small business marketing grant, and Kent completed the grant program, and we actually distributed the funding in 2020 and provided technical assistance to 14 small businesses. So we didn't have that funding left over sitting there. So that's how they were able to do that. So every time, we talk about these things, lots of great ideas, but we still have to have the resources and the funding to make them happen. So the Upper Shore Regional Council Agricultural Grant, I just want to show you where we are with that and talk about that a little bit. For this year, FY 2024, so Katie is still in the process of FY 2023 and wrapping up between now and October 31st. It was supposed to be June 30th, but there were supply chain issues and construction work that needed to be done. So the Upper Shore Regional Council, contractor delays, the Upper Shore Regional Council gave us that extension to October 31st. And then the FY 2024 applications, they'll open on January 2nd. They'll close on January 31st, which is the same schedule as last year. And we'll begin updating the website soon. But I will say, none of our partners have updated those either. And you can go to the Upper Shore Regional Council. So we just want to kind of show you where this stuff is. And go to the micro ag grant. And we might take micro out of it, because most counties have done up to 10,000, and that's not really a micro grant any longer. So it might just be a grant program moving forward. And if you scroll down to the bottom, all of our information is still from 2023. But if you you can click on it, it takes you right to the individual county, wherever the business is located. Obviously, this one is closed, but that does give, if someone calls and wants to know what they can do to prepare, I always leave them here so that they can start getting everything in order, start getting their quotes. And we actually had a couple of applicants last year that applied that couldn't get the estimates. They couldn't get contractors to give them the estimates because they were just so busy. So we hope that they will reapply this year, so then they'll have budgets in place and that they can be considered for 2024. So that's that. For 2024, I will share we have $41,000 to distribute. And then I wanted to make sure everybody was aware that CTR offers the Maryland Farmers and Ag Report. It's a 60-second daily update in the noon hour, and it's provided by the Maryland News Network. It provides local and national news and can be found on the website, but we are going to try to put on our website somewhere a link to that, because they do record them throughout the week, so you can go back and listen to them. So there's been some pretty interesting things shared on there. Shallon and I attended the logo reveal yesterday for the Chesapeake Country All-American Road. So that is all 9 counties on the Eastern Shore. We'll be pushing that out as soon as the consultant gets back home. She was here yesterday presenting. She'll be emailing us all the logos and everything, and we could start using them and putting it on our website. So that's pretty exciting. Works with Neil Owings and the Eastern Shore Heritage Area organization to push that out. So, back here. I just want to say, you know, as members of the commission, you guys are like, I need your eyes and ears on things. So I know, Paula, you gave us a list of recommendations for that. Thank you. Please, anything like that, send it to us so that we can consider it when it's being reprinted. Notice I've got them here. They're kind of set aside. We don't need it right now, but when we get to it, we'll have those recommendations and we can consider those. So please keep doing that. And then I know a comment was made at the August meeting about the website being difficult to find things. And at the July meeting, we were reviewing how to find some things, and that's another reason we did it today. But again, please, you know, send us those requests. I'll request it again. Please send it to us. Tell us what you're looking for, why it's not easy to find. Just give us some details so we can figure out, is there a better place for it? Because there very well could be. We use it every day, so we're kind of used to it. So it's good to get those fresh eyes on it, and we appreciate it. So that's how we can, you know, make the communication better internally and externally if we continue to improve it. So that, I think, is all I have. And then, not yet. That's under new business, I think. So Rose is going to cover for Shallon. Shallon had, her son had reappointment, so, yeah.
So Shallon attended a passenger ferry feasibility study, which was held on August the 25th with Queen Anne's County and Visit Annapolis. Commissioner Fithian was present for Rock Hall, and Tom Mogul was there representing Betterton. Let's see, we're there to answer any questions from the consultants. The consultants also visited St. Michael's, Tillman's Island, Kent Narrows, Chesapeake City, and other locations around the Chesapeake Bay. Shallon met with Randy at MPT to discuss the marketing plan for fiscal year 2024. And she completed the ads and copy for Chesapeake Bay Weddings, Armed Forces Directory, MAPRO newsletter, Tidewater Trader Hunt issue, and Destination Maryland. And she and Jamie attended the grant training held by Marcy Ross for new guidelines and updates.
So what's the ferry? Is there a proposed ferry that they're deciding where to put it, or what is the deal?
Yeah, this is a really, not complicated, but it's kind of a layered discussion. So they are doing a feasibility study to see, it started with discussions with Visit Annapolis and Queen Anne's County. So they started talking about it, and then they brought other partners in to talk. And then they asked for contributions. So currently, I believe there's so 2 people are spearheading it, and then there's 4 or 5 other counties that put some matching funds in. But that doesn't mean that we're not included. They're still considering other sites on the Chesapeake Bay. So it is Chesapeake Bay sites. It's a passenger ferry feasibility study to see if it's worth doing and where those sites would be, which sites are best. They'll all be ranked and that type of thing. So now this is just preliminary work to see where it would be best. And it's for passengers,
It's no cars, right?
no cars.
Right.
Is there a ferry company that's involved in these discussions?
We're still at the feasibility study portion, and that's all with Visit Annapolis and Queen Anne's County, and they have a consultant actually doing it for them.
Okay.
So we don't have many details because it's still so high level. Is it worth pursuing or not? So that's what they're still trying to determine.
I would think they'd have to have somebody willing to provide the transportation as a start, as a first step. No?
I wouldn't,
Okay.
I wouldn't foresee that ever being a profitable venture, in my opinion, but.
I don't know, I seriously think, if money can be made doing it, somebody would already be doing it.
Yeah.
Just like I think if money can be made, if Target can make money in Kent County, they'd already be here. They know more about Kent County than we do. So, that's what they do. They search sites every day. They're looking for new
They
locations.
did it in what, the 80s, 90s? I don't know, there was
The
one.
ferry?
Yeah, a ferry.
The ferry used to
think
run
it's-
from the
was it
western shore
70s
across
that
to
it stopped,
Betterton.
Shelley?
That's the only one I know.
Oh, there was a more recent.
Yeah, so late 70s. Yeah.
There was a private one out of Baltimore for a few years too, a high-speed one.
You mean
It
recently?
stopped. Yeah, like within the past 10, 15 years, yeah. Yeah, and it stopped because it wasn't profitable.
Yeah.
That was carrying employees of the,
Are you talking about Aberdeen Proving Aid?
Aberdeen back and forth, I think.
Oh, no, I mean, a one that was
I was going to
actually
say,
a
I think there are
passenger one.
still a few
Yeah,
workers that
Yeah, it
utilize
was a
that from
big-
Betterton.
It was a big yellow, high-speed thing. You couldn't miss it. You could see it. I mean, we could see it from Tolchester if it came out, yeah. If it came out of the Patapsco, we could see it. It was that big.
So I just want to make you all aware that there is going to be a Turner's Creek Park Free Family Fun Day this Saturday from 10 to 4. It's at Turner's Creek and the surrounding area. It will include nature trails, the museum will be open. They're having free popcorn and activities for the kids. And as part of that, Katie worked very hard with Stephanie Gosman and DNR and the Kent Museum itself to make this pamphlet. I apologize, they're not official pamphlets because they're due in tomorrow. We were hoping for today, but so I went ahead and I printed so you'd have an idea what it looks like. And
There
that's-
was no blood, but there was definitely some tears involved in this. So, but we made it to the finish line, so thank you. Katie and Rose worked very hard on that project.
What's the date on that, Rose? It's this Saturday, the 16th. And the hope is that they'll do this biannually, and the spring event, I think, is in line to be a much greater event because they're a little more prepared and looking to secure some funding for the ideas that they have for the spring event. So the last thing I have is an update on the Kent County Comprehensive Rezoning from the Planning Office. And I'll just read Bill's email. Greetings. You are receiving this email because you expressed an interest in the Kent Comprehensive Rezoning Update process. On Thursday, October 5th at 1:30 p.m., the Planning Commission will continue to review the proposed draft land use ordinance for review. The agenda will be posted on Friday, September the 29th. The meeting packet will also be posted. The Planning Commission will discuss proposed Article 5 zoning regulations, Article 6 environment, and Article 7 definitions. The discussions are anticipated to continue on November 2nd and December 7th, 2023. On Monday, October 23rd at 6:30 p.m., the Agriculture Advisory Commission will meet to continue its review of those proposed changes related to agriculture within the proposed draft land use ordinance for review. The agenda will be posted and the meeting packet will also be posted. Members of the public are welcome and encouraged to participate. All meetings are held in the Commissioners' Chambers at 400 High Street in Chestertown, Maryland. All meetings will be live streamed on YouTube and may be viewed online. A paper copy of the clean version of the proposed draft land use ordinance for review is available for perusal in the Kent County Public Library at 408 High Street, Chestertown, Maryland. If you require communication assistance, he lists all that if you need me to read that. The agenda and materials online are also available in the Planning, Housing, and Zoning offices located at 400 High Street. and to please call 410-778-7423 to schedule an appointment to review the materials. And in closing, thank you for participation in the CRU process.
Thank you, Rose. Jamie, do you want to go into the legislative update?
Actually, yeah, so I asked Paula to kind of help me with this because we talked about from the Bay Area
Association of Realtors.
Association of Realtors. She's on the legislative committee there, and they did have their initial meeting. So I asked her to review that. I've also had a couple of just preliminary meetings with the Maryland Chamber of Commerce and we really don't have the priorities worked out yet, but when we do, I'll bring those to the commission for FY 2024. But there's been discussions about what the priorities will be. So I serve on the labor, workforce and education, and then business regulations committees. So I'll make sure that we are aware of what the priorities will be once we get those outlined. So if you want to share, Paula, what you know so far.
I also tapped the Maryland Realtors, which is the state association that I'm affiliated with, for their state-level priorities and concerns. And as Jamie suggested, it is a little early for both the Bay Area Association and Maryland Realtors to have solidified their priorities, but they did give me an idea of what their concerns are and where they're headed. On a local level, the Bay Area Association is interested in encouraging local governments in all of the Eastern Shore counties to include licensed members of real estate boards on their planning commissions and Board of Appeals. And the reason for that is that we, as realtors, have access to a tremendous amount of information about what's going on and can be value-added participants in those commissions. With the regional board is also going to be lobbying to allow for accessory dwelling units on any single-family property in the county. And that, in addition, that allowance would not require additional sewer allocation or septic system if the total square footage or number of bedrooms existing on the property is less than that would be permitted for a single-family home of the same size. And that ADUs be permitted as a matter of by right to execute leases for up to 6 months or more, and to allow shorter-term leases if the owner lives in the primary unit on the property. The other thing locally is that they'd like to see the minimum lot size be eliminated, and explore the use of sponsored zoning text amendments. I'm not sure what they mean by that, but sorry that I don't have more information. On the county level, Bay Area Association supports the elimination of the 10% rule in order to observe personal property rights on a more fulsome basis, and to create an atmosphere that would enable property owners to utilize their properties for more purposes than the 10% rule currently allows. In Queen Anne's County, and there's some overlap here, I think, in Queen Anne's County, they're specifically looking to create a task force to come up with ways and market-based mechanisms to increase moderately priced housing starts in the county. And that's something I think we might want to encourage the county to do as well. What they do now in Queen Anne's is developers have to allocate, are given a choice. They can allocate 10% of the development to moderately priced housing. They can, as an alternative, pay a fee in lieu, or they can donate land of an equivalent value to the local jurisdiction. That approach hasn't worked to create additional units. What happens is the developers typically pay the fee in lieu that then the county uses to fund loans to low-income people, but it doesn't add to housing stock. So they want to see if there are other ways to approach improving the availability and access to moderately priced housing. The other thing they're going to be pursuing in Queen Anne's County is to get selling and trading of water and sewer allocations permitted, which is not currently the case. I don't think we allow it here either, but I don't know for sure. And then finally, to enable condo projects that are approved to make use of shared well and septic systems for the project. So those are things we might want to put on our outlook list as well. On the state level, given the state budget situation, the State Association is going to be paying particularly close attention to legislative proposals that have a significant fiscal impact and any effect they may have on taxes and fees assessed to real property and property owners. They're concerned because in the past, as with budget squeeze, the first line of defense is typically to increase the property taxes or to increase transfer and recordation taxes, all of which hit residential property owners right in the face. One of the reasons that they're particularly concerned about this in the coming legislative session is that they recently did a poll, and a widespread poll, and 29% of the people polled said they were seriously considering moving out of state. 29%. And their rationale and the reason why they would move is because of concerns relating to housing availability and housing costs. And they expect, the State Association expects that number to rise. State Association is also paying close attention to the Pathways report that outlines the steps that states have to take to achieve the greenhouse gas reduction targets under the Climate Solutions Act. This includes regulating emissions standards for multifamily and commercial structures, as well as any proposed alternatives to the gas tax. One of the things that's been discussed on the state level is a vehicle miles traveled tax. So that's likely to come up again.
Do it, though.
How to enforce it, I know, but it may be, the tax may be levied, and this is a particular concern for realtors who spend a lot of time in the car,
In rural areas.
and, or anyone who does travel
Transportation.
for their business, require it to report their mileage. And they could do that, actually, Judy, because people who claim business deductions
That you could do, but not
do indicate their
I understand.
their mileage. So anyway, for them, as well as for the local people, housing supply is a major concern. And the current administration, the Moore administration, and a number of stakeholders are actively working to develop a package of proposals to boost housing supply. The big hurdle here is overcoming local government opposition. Business community support for the initiative is needed and requested, because we can't effectively address this. If we can't effectively address this issue, then businesses are not going to locate here or expand here, and they won't stay if their workforce and customer bases can't find affordable housing in Maryland. So that was their report. Another thing on their list is continuing to work toward improving financial literacy education. That's a priority. And that's so students and young adults can make good decisions that allow them to reach their goals, including home ownership. So it all fits. Lastly, they're working on condo and HOA reform to make disclosures and resale package contents and fees more consistent across condos, HOAs, and co-ops, as they're not currently in alignment. We don't have a lot of condos or co-ops here, but in the future, the more consistency between those requirements, the better. And as a general market outlook, real estate market's not looking great. I talked to my manager, my office manager, about how we were doing office-wise, and he said that at least 25% of the realtors in the office have had no transactions closed this year. That's a problem. Across the state and in Kent County, the number of units sold has declined and is declining month by month. The inventory levels are way down. Months of inventory now across the state and in Kent County are just 2 months of inventory, which means property is turning over pretty quickly, what's there. While there has been a bit of an increase in the average price and the median price of properties, I think that's a reflection of a lack of inventory and competition for what is available. There's not a lot out there that suggests we're going to see any positive change anytime soon. Would you agree, Bob? Interest rates are still hovering, 30-year interest rates are still hovering at the 77% level. They did drop a couple of weeks ago, but they went right back up.
You know what prime is right now? Is 8.5, okay, at least it's holding steady. Okay, for a couple of weeks anyway. it's
And
holding
then,
steady.
of course, the Fed is going to be looking at interest rates again, I think, next week. And I think they're fully expecting that they're going to go up another 0.25%. We'll see what happens. The people out in the marketplace are concerned, those who own homes are concerned that if they put their home on the market, while they may get a decent price for it, they're not going to be able to get a new home for much less, if at all, and there isn't much out there for them to choose from. So people are staying put. And the people who are coming to the county, who are looking for housing, are increasingly saying it's impossible for them to find what they're looking for at a price they can afford. So they are looking elsewhere. This does not bode well. So I don't have a quick and easy red, white, and blue solution, but I think we do need to be really focused on giving existing property owners more flexibility to create ADUs, to do short-term rentals, because they need the money, and they need a place for their family, in many cases, to live affordably. And we need to create other opportunities for land to be made available for moderately priced housing, and to support that activity. That's my set of recommended solutions.
So but, you talk about the doom and gloom of July and how your colleagues haven't sold a house, but their houses are flipping in 12 days, so it doesn't seem like they're not selling. Plus, since COVID, we saw this massive activity during COVID, which shrank the housing inventory. So, just do a 1-month snapshot is a 1-month snapshot is my point. And you can't make gross predictions or, claims with just a 1-month snapshot.
No, and I don't claim to, Judy. What I'm saying is this 1-month snapshot is a continuation of the picture that has persisted virtually all year long on a month-to-month basis. And what we're going to find when we get to the end of the year, right now in Kent County, there were 27 units sold in July. there are more than 27 realtors in Kent County. How many of them, many of them need to sell property in order to live, in order to pay their bills.
Well, I mean, I don't deny that, I'm just saying that it's cyclical because we had such busy years during COVID. You can't expect we're gonna have the same number of
So
turnovers
we
year after
do
year.
get this type of information at least once a year for the commission, compiled for the whole year. And it tracks just with what we're seeing there in that 1 month. But we will do that as well.
But I mean, I
We'll
think
get
you have
that
to look
again.
at, we all know
We
it's
do,
cyclical.
And we do.
Yeah.
We look at the whole year as a picture, and we usually do that like about March when they get their final numbers from the year prior. So we do that every year, so we'll be getting that information. But what is on this slide for July is exactly what we've been seeing, not just in July.
Right.
We have been seeing this for the last 18 to 24 months. So it's the same, that there's no inventory to sell, which makes it hard for people to come here, fill our jobs, find a place to live, put their kids in the school, all those things we need to have a vibrant economy.
I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm just saying that it's not necessarily just a Kent County problem.
Absolutely
Plus,
not,
So
no.
it's not just poor
No.
Kent County, so I grant that we need to do more for housing and all that. I just
No.
want to paint a better picture that it's still a great place to live and the market is good, and if you have a house to sell, you can probably sell it. So,
You can sell
those
it.
things are good to
You
know.
won't find another place to
and-
live, but you
the-
can sell
Right,
it.
right, but.
The other question is, and this is a Kent County problem, is how many of these sales were second home buyers? Because for the past
Correct.
couple years,
Big
second
issue.
home buyers are out competing
But
primary
they're also
residents.
buying short-term, so there's a lot of issues out there if you have such a small base.
Which, that's bad too.
Well, and
They're buying short-term
think,
rentals.
Right, they're buying
That's a Kent County problem,
Airbnb,
too.
I know too.
Yeah.
I think any other, representatives of other counties are going to give you the same story.
Right.
Because this is a statewide issue.
Exactly my point.
And
This
so. and
sheets the entire state, correct?
Yeah, that cheats the entire state. And the solutions that I'm suggesting don't only apply to Kent County. I mean, they've got to be addressed on a local level, depending on conditions, in much the same way, if we're going to get through this. And in the meantime, we're going to see contraction. And contraction, frankly, hurts. It hurts the businesses, it hurts the individuals, it hurts county government, and local government. There's a rolling result for all of this. It's cumulative, and it's a concern. I mean, we're seeing that in our county budget now, where we have more requests for more funding than we have available, and where the tax revenues aren't going to support everything we'd like to do. So you contract the real estate market, you contract the amount of taxes that are collected on those transactions.
And I would say, so, it is an issue at the state level, it's an issue at the county level, and then
The national
it's.
level.
And it's true. And it's also an issue at the town level, because if you put in a policy at the state level, it's all got to trickle down through all the municipalities in there. And we're not going to address it by just focusing on county stuff or just the town of Chestertown. We have got to be looking at this picture holistically, because if we really want to grow our population to be able to support the revenues that we need to run the county and to provide funding for the school system, we've got to grow as a community as a whole, not just in Kent County or in a certain municipality. We've got to grow as a whole.
Well, we have to find ways to make people want to stay here. If this poll is in any way indicative of the true attitude of Kent County residents and their willingness to stay, no matter how lovely it is to live here, then if people are voting with their feet, that's another problem.
I just want to make a point about polls, and, no matter where you read a poll, you got to know who was polled, what the question was, I mean, you can't just say there was a poll and therefore this, without letting us know the basics of the poll. I say that about any poll, and we're just being diluted in many cases when polls say something we haven't done our homework about, who said the poll, who did the poll, who was polled. So that's,
Well, I mean, I did tell you it was done by the Maryland Realtors. I
Right.
can get more detail on it, but, you know, their objective here is to try to get information that informs their approach to the
That's right.
legislative session.
that's right.
So I don't think there's anything nefarious here or anything that
Well,
people
they
are,
have a bias, so of course there is a bias. But I don't want to get into that. I'm just saying that, you know, you can't just say a poll and then everybody,
understood.
Just anecdotally, when Mike Wall attended one of our meetings a couple months ago, he said him and many of his friends were looking at moving to Delaware because of
people have been
property
looking for
tax.
Delaware forever, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do have access to that Lightcast data, and I just ran it for our commission, for our staff, and for Nina, because we did can't remember what the webinar was called, something about local data, that's what it was. We did a local data webinar with IEDC, and we have access to Lightcast data. And I can tell you, there's the number of people migrated into Kent County and the number of people that migrated out. There's more people migrating out than are migrating in. And I can run that and share that with you guys if you think that would be helpful to you.
Well, it's only helpful if you know where they go and why they go.
And we do.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all on there. It tells you, like, if they went to Newcastle, Delaware, it's got some different ones. So it should be helpful.
Yeah, well, the tax system in Delaware is way different than Maryland.
Correct.
You know, we can't fix that.
Correct.
Well, we can.
Don't disagree.
Well, we didn't, we haven't.
Right.
That's a quick question for Paula.
Yes.
Within any of your organizations that you belong to, or your boards that you serve, it's my understanding, and I don't know a lot about this, but I've heard that folks that are building new homes, that the state of Maryland last year put something in place to increase energy efficiency. And the reason why I know about this, I have two daughters who are building homes here in this county. And they're on a timeline to try to get it done for the first of the year. Because if not, it's gonna add
Additional cost.
additional cost with the mandate that Maryland has in place for.
Well, Maryland did adopt a mandate that sprinkler systems
Well, I know that.
be put in. I'm
The
actually.
green building, yes, you are correct. I don't know the details of it, but you are exactly correct. There are changes coming through for the construction trade that housing has to be, like, the energy efficiency is going up. And it's all the go green, you know, which I'm not anti-environment, but we also Maryland doesn't have a dome over it. We're affected by everything that happens, especially when it comes to air quality, by things in others, you know, and energy efficiency and all of that, by the towns or the other states that we surround. And I think sometimes we're sacrificing ourselves at the expense of our citizens.
I can't answer your question right now, but I will get that
Yeah, we can look into it.
information for you. It could be that there are rules that are timed to go into place at certain points in time.
I guess it has to do with the International Building Code, without having any details. And the state of Maryland adopts the new version automatically, where our surrounding states look at things and may pick and choose, or may choose to adopt the whole thing. But it's the exact same conversation as the sprinkler that you brought up, Paula, that none of our surrounding states around us adopted that part of the International Building Code, but Maryland did. So probably similarly, where it hurts us is not only are we not in a dome for air quality control or whatever the issue is, but without our surrounding neighbors implementing the same thing, we outprice ourselves. And
They all look more attractive in a way.
that's what I hear at the statewide meetings over and over again, to your point, Paula, about, 29% of, whether 29% is the right number or what, but they want to go somewhere else where either the retirement income isn't taxed as high, or the building code isn't as strict, because it's cheaper to live there.
Right. Are your daughters building in Maryland?
In
built in Kent County, one on
In
Cooper's
Kent,
Lane.
okay.
One off of Cooper's Lane,
Okay,
one off of Fairdale Farm.
okay.
And,
It shouldn't make that won't make a difference, but
uh,
that won't make a difference.
no, but, you know, when we're talking about affordable housing, and we're talking about young couples with kids and everything else, which is what I think Kent County would like to have.
Yeah,
When you add another $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000 on this energy mandate, might put that monthly payment a little
Out of reach.
a little too much for them.
sure,
Where
sure,
they can't even begin to be a first-time homeowner.
right.
So I was just curious to know what you know about it.
Well, I'll look into it. I'll get some information and get back to you.
Paula, would the ADU thing cascade down to the towns? Because I know Chestertown's looking at implementing an ADU thing.
Well, in fact, the Maryland Planning, what is it called? Maryland Department of Planning has a task force that is meeting for the first time on September 19th. And frankly, I think they're a little behind the wheel here, because localities and counties and the state itself are looking at the ADU issue and are preparing in many ways to adopt either text amendments or local legislation that would provide for the necessary allowances and clearances. So I think the more squeezed your localities become in terms of housing availability, the sooner they're going to act. And I know in the land use, I believe, in the land use ordinance that will go before the commissioners, there is a provision to permit homeowners to do short-term rentals.
Correct.
And I think ADUs are in as well as an accessory dwelling. So, and recognized.
By right on residential and ag zone properties is my understanding from Bill.
Okay. So
Yep.
that could happen sooner, depending on when that process moves through the pipeline, sooner than later.
I know Chestertown's working on it. pretty
Chestertown
hard.
is too, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you talked about the moderately priced housing. Is there a formula for what a moderately priced house is?
There is, and I don't know it off the top of my head.
I can send you guys some information on that. Actually, I just got something today about rental rates, but I'm sure there's both. But I'll send that to the entire commission, because I thought it was interesting. They have gone up from 2022 to 2023. So rental rates and then moderately priced. And it is different. It's different for every area, what's moderately priced.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and rentals in Kent County are virtually non-existent. And you really can't find anything that you would live in under $1,000, and even then, it's more typically in the $2,000 to $2,500 range. I went looking for clients who were looking for a place to live, who were being hired by the college. And I found 4 rentals in Kent County, all of which were over $1,500 a month. They can't do that. I mean, the people who are coming can't afford that. So,
Washington College needs to pay better salaries if they can't afford that, because, I mean, that's, $1,500 is pretty low. Pretty reasonable, I mean, for rental.
You think so?
For renting
I
a
don't think
house.
so.
Oh, we've had a rental house for decades that we charged $1,000 for, we never raised the rent,
you charge what?
$1,000 a month.
And that's why they never leave.
yeah.
But 15, no, we haven't done it because we don't want to do that. But $1,500, I would think is not that.
It depends on what you're doing. In Kent
That's what I'm
County,
saying. Washington College should be able to pay somebody more that they can afford, or,
Well, that's a
Average
bigger
rent.
question to tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could be talking about custodial staff, so.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all
no,
people
I
from
get
all
that.
walks of life that need to be
No, I
able to afford
understand
these
that, but I
houses.
mean, it's, you're not gonna, the days of $500 a month rents are long
I'm glad my
gone.
mortgage not 1,500.
Yeah, I
because-
know.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any
Of course,
other
I'm
questions?
tight anyway, so don't go by me. I'm very tight.
Well, for a while there, when interest rates were low, it was cheaper
Right.
to look at buying a house than renting.
Right. Now it's going the other way.
It was going the other way.
Yeah.
The squeeze is on.
I mean, I mean, just riffing, David would be better at this, but even like the median sales price of a home in Kent County, a $1,500 mortgage would almost cover that. So, you know, you're still talking rent, that's pretty high, right? But there's no inventory for them to buy.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There are different rules of thumb, but I think the one that's most commonly accepted is no more than 30% of your income should go toward rent, slash mortgage.
Right.
So you back into
Board and everything.
salary from there.
What it is, yeah. But we're still pretty much a service economy here in Kent County, and people just don't make all that much money. I mean, we're still bucking the $15 an hour rate for people who are in a lot of positions.
It's a lot to pay a
Well, as of January 1st,
kid,
you're not bucking it.
teenager.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So figure it out. Okay. So,
So thank you, guys. Good. All right, now, so we're going into new business, and we're going to talk about the Kent County Middle School location, which we were informed about 2 months or so ago. So I don't know how many of you got to look at the PowerPoint,
I
but
want to share a couple things real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
To
go
kind
ahead.
of start the conversation. Because Kate Gray was in and she asked that we look at it. And I think we all know there will be an economic impact to moving the school out of Chestertown. We all know that. There's 60 full and part-time staff at Chestertown Middle School, and about 40 car riders, so people that are dropping off their kids coming in and out of Chestertown. So the staff and the parents could potentially be redirected from Chestertown, so there will be a financial impact. From the commissioners' discussion, we went back and listened to it. They prefer it remain in Chestertown for pretty much the same reasons. However, it really all comes down to what's best for the students and the costs associated with, each option. So, I just wanted to start the conversation off with those points to kind of get us started. Like, do we want to take a position? Do we not want to take a position and make a recommendation to the county commissioners? And that's for the commission to discuss and decide.
And in the PowerPoint, it looked like, so the cost is pretty similar. It's just there's a little bit more demo cost for staying in Chestertown.
Correct.
But otherwise, it's only like a $3 million difference or something like that. From the PowerPoint, I get the feeling the school board would rather it be in Wharton, and correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't know if,
Question,
yeah.
I'm not sure that I.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know, no.
I don't know.
What, do you have any thoughts, Commissioner Price?
Put you on the spot
I'm sure you have a
there.
lot.
Not to say.
I don't have to
On the
put you
spot.
on the spot.
I read an article not long ago that, I think it was Mardella Springs. Where they had a high school, and look, our high school is, I think, 50 years old. And when it was built for 1,200 students. And currently, we have 550, maybe 600 students in that school. And in Mardella Springs, they have a similar situation, from what I understand. And they decided to maybe not spend an enormous amount of money, but do the necessary renovations, and they put their middle school and their high school together. I don't even think that option was even considered, and I'm not suggesting that maybe they do that, but I think it would be worth looking at that. You know, my preference would be to have it here in town. I still think it's kind of nice that some of the student population can still walk to school. If it does go to work, I'm okay with that, if that's what the citizens of the county decide. But if we're gonna spend that much money to build a new school, then it should at least have its own cafeteria. We shouldn't be bringing food from the high school cafeteria to the middle school. I mean, if we're gonna spend those kinds of dollars, and I think all three of the commissioners feel this way, that it should be a standalone building. I think there's pros and cons to both sides. I even said that to commissioners meeting. If I was able to go out a survey, you know, as a parent, my preference would be at the Chestertown location, where you could still have your school and your kids kind of just not interrupted, build on the same property, and then demolish the other school. Because once they move out of the school and move to work, it's going to become another problem, like the school up in Millington.
Yeah, the county's problem.
Yeah. And it's going to become an eyesore, unless we can sell it. So I don't know what the commission wants to do. You certainly need to do what you think is right.
So what the, so what the school board has voted on so far is to narrow it down to either moving to Wharton or to staying where it is.
That's the way I understand it, and that is, I don't know the process, honestly, like, is it a recommendation to the state, does it,
Don't forget about the county. I mean,
yeah.
the county has
How-
a huge say in it.
how is the county
Because if
involved?
the county's
Yeah.
not happy with the recommendation, the county could just say, we're not gonna fund it.
Gotcha.
So it's a state and county, I don't know based on what we just heard here and talking to the other commissioners, that they would turn down the funding for it
Right.
simply on location. I think the question more is where this funding gonna come from? But I don't think that they truly explored, I think that they explored putting the middle school and high school, you know, building a new section and joining them so that the cafeteria and gym could be shared. I do not believe that they looked at the existing structure housing the middle school and high school.
I think you're right, Shelley. I think it was adding on to the existing high school and creating space for the middle school
They
students.
did not care for that option. And it's my understanding, what I took away from the presentation, is it's because it would put fifth graders or sixth graders, depending on where the cutoff is, in the same school as 12th graders, and that's what they did not want to do. So they didn't want this option, and that's most likely why they didn't look at this option.
I'll express my opinion. I mean, I'm a Chestertown resident, you know, so I have a bias, but, you know, a few years ago, when I looked at, as part of Kent Forward, some of our initiatives, is, you know, where are the businesses located in Kent County by size? And, you know, we did a chart, and I can send it to everybody if you want, of you know, where, you know, in this range from 25 to however many employees, you know, where are they located? And the vast majority were located in and around
Absolutely.
Chestertown. And I think about, you know, there are obviously a lot of factors at play here, but from an economic development perspective and trying to attract new employees to Kent County, families, you know, I think it makes sense to put it, your shining new school in Chestertown as something to attract folks. And as a graduate of Kent County High School, you know, you put a brand-new shiny school next to Kent County High School, and great, you're attracting with that, but then you have this, which, obviously it needs work. It's almost as old as the middle school. So, I think about those things. And, there's lot's been said as far as, opportunities for maybe the older middle school students to have, maybe get a couple extra classes, maybe start to take high school classes. I don't even know if it's been thought out enough to the extent that, do the schedules match up? Who's, if they're separate buildings, who's gonna chaperone walk? There are a lot of logistics, I think, that, have been thrown out as positives that I just don't know if they would practically work, and to decide it based on some of those things, I just don't know. So, my thought, my personal opinion, but.
Well, and then we have a designated growth area out in the 301 corridor. And if it is indeed a designated growth area, and if indeed that's where growth is going to be encouraged, then what does that portend relative to school requirements? At this stage, I sort of, if the growth does happen out there, there's really not a lot of school support, I don't think.
I mean, Galena Elementary School is the closest, but only elementary. Yeah, you gotta
Okay.
come to Chestertown for middle school and then Wharton for high school.
Wow. So I'm not sure that enough thought's gone into this, and given the current decline in the population, year over year,
But I think you
how
can,
do you forecast for how big the school should be and how many students it
Done that.
needs
I
to
think
serve?
they've put in a lot of thought. I don't think you can say they haven't put in a lot of thought. They've been doing this for a long time.
No, they have. but
I'm
it's
saying
very
it's a
hard
challenge.
It's very hard to predict.
Oh, right, but they
once-
have
Because we're so
models.
small. But yeah,
Yeah.
they absolutely do have models, which I have a problem with models because just be such a small number, a slight change in that can change it drastically. And, being the smallest county, it seems to affect us the most.
Yeah.
And, yeah, the impact is felt harder because of the smaller numbers.
what do you think about population? Sorry.
The presentations that I've seen have taken the Maryland Department of Planning and DP's projections, and they've used those for the projection to be used in this modeling,
So-
which does not take into account the 301 corridor project. They are solely based on
Whatever that is.
historical data and moving that forward.
And it's based on other areas around, and speaking of Maryland Department of Planning, because that's really important, because that is the data source for the state, and that's what they utilize. It's great that the Secretary of Planning, Rebecca Flora, lives in Kent County, because we've talked about the anomalies of the data and how it affects Kent County. And she has some pretty good ideas about how to bring other agencies in that are collecting this data and how to aggregate it with what planning has been doing. The Maryland Department of Planning projected Kent County to grow a little from 2010 to 2020. We lost 1,000 citizens. So right there, the projections aren't turning out to be the reality.
They're off. And the growth in the county isn't students. The people coming in are largely retirees, people over 50 years of age, and our demographic is moving in that direction. So, all things considered, I think it's a little premature for us, knowing what little we know, and having as few facts as we have, to make any kind of a recommendation.
Does Kerwin play into this at all? No.
Yeah.
And how would the budgeting for this work? Like, how much funding
They're
does?
separate but intertwined.
Yeah, right, yeah, right.
There's also been some effort to, normally, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, because I see a lot of numbers and sometimes they all run together, but historically, Kent County gets 50% from the state. And there's some effort right now with folks that can help us to increase that percentage, potentially. And if that happens, it's gonna make our decision a lot easier. I certainly want to see the best schools that we can ever have for our kids. And I recognize that, yes, that one's 70 years old and the high school's 50 years old. But we have to be able to pay the bills. So if we're successful and the superintendent is on board with this, of increasing that contribution from the state, we may be able to move forward and not have a lot of heartburn.
At the 50/50 cost share to fund either model in either location, Wharton or Chestertown, to build a new school, we would, for a 30-year debt service, we would have to raise taxes 6 cents, which is approximately 6% because our rate is 1.022. So about 6 cents per $100 of assessed value to exclusively to pay for the construction, the bricks and mortar. That doesn't include any operating expenses that may increase. It does. I don't know, maybe it would be cheaper because it would be more energy efficient. I don't know.
And that's just for the school.
That's just for the bricks and mortar.
That doesn't count curb.
Yeah, that does not include whatsoever Kerwin.
Or any other
Or any
issue.
operational expenses in
Right.
the county.
Right.
I would like to echo a little something on what Charlie was saying, and you probably already have thought about this, but when the governor was here, and the lieutenant governor were here, my job was to go with the lieutenant governor to,
Sultana? Menares?
Sultana.
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 And I learned an awful lot being there. What a great opportunity educational-wise for our kids. And a lot of those kids are walking with their teachers or whatever, and having great experiences there. And that was another one of my thoughts in the back of my head when I said my pick would be Chestertown. I'm not opposed to either one of them really, but I just wanted to throw that out there because that's such a great opportunity for our kids. And there's other opportunities. There's the college, you know, working with our students, student teaching, and all those good things are happening.
YMCA, you know, there are
Yeah.
things near Chestertown that I just,
So it's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And maybe they have thought about it all. I don't know.
Well, the downside to Chestertown is the kids for 5 years will be getting schooled in trailers. You know, you've got to think about what's going to happen to them when the building isn't going to be, it isn't? That's what,
I think it's a 22-month project or something.
oh, well, whatever.
What they're gonna do is they're gonna keep them in the same building and build a
And then
new
move.
school on the
Oh, I didn't hear that. I heard they were going to be in trailers. Okay.
But
And
there is a
they're knock the old one down.
complication to that because POS money was spent on the recreational area, and program open space would have to okay that area being not used
I
for
see.
22 months or whatever the number of months is. And that's the opposite of the agreement that the town of Chestertown signed with them. So that's a hurdle, that's a roadblock that would have to be overcome.
And there may also be a stormwater issue.
A what?
Stormwater.
Shelley, isn't there also an issue just relative to the amount of property that's available to the current middle school?
I mean, can they physically do it?
Can they physically fit it? Yes, into
Supposedly
what
they
they,
have. I mean, they've mapped it out, but
When I heard the presentations, and I attended each one of them when they had them around the county, it was recommended that you have 30 acres for a school. That's what they recommended. I think up here they have 15.
yeah.
But the guy did say, the expert, that there are schools built on 18 acres. And they looked at that. And that's what, you know, they said that they can do it.
It seemed like the campus is
I don't know
the
why they
same.
need 30 acres personally. I think 30 acres.
That's a lot.
is over the top.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You mentioned the increased percentage over 50%. When would that be determined?
General Assembly, so in session
Yeah,
next.
there's
The best case would be next spring, but
There's some
worst
outreach
case.
there with some of the folks that
I would think so.
are connected.
So is there a set timeline on this, or it's just still ideas as far as the school board making a decision?
They wanted to move forward with the design this fiscal year. That was not funded by the county commissioners. It couldn't be fit in the budget. And for the record, regardless of it's 50/50 or 96/4, the design, all those soft costs that go into this construction is 100% funded by the county. So we say 50/50, that we're being kind of generous because automatically our cost, the county's cost is higher than that. So the design is not moving forward this fiscal year. Hopefully, this legislation will go to General Assembly this coming year and we'll have a firm idea of what the real cost percentage is. And then we would move forward with the design, which would take about a year before they could even think about putting a shovel in the ground.
Is the design piece included in the 2024 budget, budget?
The best case would be a fiscal year 25. That was $3 million, do you remember? I think that was a $3 million ask, $2 or $3 million.
That sounds about right. Prior to coming in here, I was listening to a YouTube interview with Governor Moore. And the question came up about schools in Kent County, crumbling schools in Kent County. And he was, according to the interview, he was pretty committed to taking care of that problem. So, talk's cheap, action.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah, but if he didn't talk, that'd be scary. If he hadn't said it, at least he said it.
I'll take it one step further, and we've gotten a lot of mileage out of Governor Moore, in Kent County since his term began. He has been here, he's supported us, he's saying all the right things.
He's also coming under pressure from
That's correct,
jurisdictions.
Right here in Chestertown.
which is rare.
Yeah.
That has something to do with the money. So, I think that's a good thing to have those partnerships.
Are there any other thoughts? I think that this is something that as a body, we should be involved in and should make a recommendation on. I just don't think now's the right time. I think we need to gather more info, talk about it more, maybe a couple more times, and then offer a recommendation. But I do think it is a good thing for us to make a recommendation on. I just think we should be prudent and study it a little more.
Sounds good.
You know, just as a suggestion, it might be interesting to ask Dr. Couch to come in
Mm-hmm.
at next month's meeting, if she's available, and actually give the presentation that she gave to commissioners.
Yeah,
It was very educational.
that's a good idea. Why don't we
Good idea.
do that?
I will check and see the last time she was here. I think we are about due, so I'll check on that. Usually she doesn't like to do it when school first starts, so she might want to do it October or November, but I will find out when she can do that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for all that information, and all that discussion. And, okay, we covered some of the public comments. Are there any more? I think the public's all gone.
I have here is on behalf of the county commissioners, I want to extend our appreciation for your service on this board and your commitment to Kent County. And it's certainly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, well, I don't know when's the next meeting? I forgot to look it up.
What month is it? September, so October.
October.
Something.
Hold on.
Second week of October.
Sorry, guys. I've been a little distracted today. It'll-
11th, October 11th.
Because I would have to put my glasses on to see the
3 p.m.
calendar.
Be late like I was today. And with that, I will take a
So,
motion to adjourn.
October 11th.
Move we adjourn.
All right, we got 2 motions in a second. All those in favor say
No,
aye.
Dick isn't sleeping.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure, you can go. I think Sharon needs a new buddy for that one.
These are